Hi everybody and welcome to Week 1 of INF321 Introduction to Research. My name's Jane Garner and I'll be taking you through this subject for this teaching session, and I'm really happy to be here, and I hope that this subject is going to be a good one for all of you. Having said that, I've noticed on the discussion list that I'll talk about in a sec, but there's been quite a few people saying, oh, I'm really anxious about this subject, or I'm a bit nervous about this one looks really hard. So I am here to make it easy for you. So there's a few things we can do to make it a bit easier, and I'll be doing that. And I think really the thing to make it easier is just to try and bring it into your reality. So talking about research in a really practical way, about ways that we can and do research in the sort of information management, libraries, all that sort of information industry. So I think if we can just keep talking about it and make sure that it's a really sort of practical approach rather than highly theoretical, then we'll be right. So more about that later. But for now, what I wanted to do is just to introduce you to this week and to get you on track. There's about 50 students doing this subject. So there's a lovely big group of people, so I'm hoping that you'll be able to all talk with each other and help each other along through the learning. So first thing to think of at this point is to head over here to the discussion list. If you haven't already done so, could you please jump in there, introduce yourself, see who else is around, and that way I've got a really good idea about who you are, where you're at in the course, and just to learn where you're living really. One of the things I've been doing is to build a Google map of where everybody lives, and we've got loads of people in the sort of east coast of Australia, and we've got someone over in Prince Edward Island in Canada, and yes, that is where Anne of Green Gables was filmed and written about. Very good. So yeah, there's a whole group of people here, all from all sorts of different places, and so that's going to make it a really interesting group to work with, I'm hoping. So, things to do this week. First thing to do is to jump into the discussion list, as I said, introduce yourself. That would be brilliant. Second thing I suggest you do is to head over here to the subject outline, because this is where you will find your schedule. And the important thing here to note is when all your due dates are. So I think if you're studying online, it's hard. It's hard studying online because it's really isolating. You've really got to motivate yourself. You're sort of not in the classroom where people sort of give you a nudge along. So I think the key to success in studying online is to be really super organised, particularly when you've got a job or you've got kids or you've got all sorts of other stuff going on. Being organised, I think, is really the first trick to success. So what I'm suggesting you do before you even get started on the content of the subject is to have a look at this list of what we're doing when, and check out your due dates for your 2 assignments and put them in your diaries now, and that way you know you've got some time to work up towards them. The subject is, there's a lot of reading to do in this subject, but we do it quite gently. So you can see that the first module actually runs over 2 weeks rather than 1, and that's because it is quite big, but also because we want you to have time to read it. There's lots of links out to various things to have a look at and to think about, and there's some discussion lists that you can contribute to as well. But it does go at a fairly reasonable pace, so it's not too stressy, I'm hoping, with the amount of things you have to cram into each week. I haven't listed any online classes here, but I will be doing those because I think it's helpful, and I like to meet you guys and chat. So what I'm going to do is to put together some dates that I would like to speak with you, definitely before the assignments, but also earlier in this teaching session, just so you don't sort of feel like you're talking into a black hole. And so I don't feel like I'm talking into a black hole too. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put some dates together and then I'll let you know when they are. If you can get to the online classes, that'd be brilliant, because we'll just have a chance to chat and we can talk about the assessments or whatever it is you want to talk about. If you can't get to them, that's absolutely fine too, because I will record them and I'll put the links up inside our website here, so you can follow along later when you do get a chance. Now, the other things I wanted to show you, pardon me. Okay, so Module 1 stretches over 2 weeks. We just saw that. So let's go and have a little look at it. So all the content sits under this link here. Now, this is the whole subject, all of that. So it sort of looks bigger than Ben-Hur, but it's not too bad, truly. And we do go through it at a not too fast a pace at all. So, first module is to take you 2 weeks to get through. Let's go and have a little look at them. So, if you will have done other subjects with us, I'm sure, and so you should be quite familiar with this format. Quite a lot of reading to do and links out to the textbook and to other things that we'd like you to have a look at. The textbook is this one, if I can bring it up. This is written by Alison Jane Pickard, and this edition was 2013, I think. And 2013, I think it came out electronically. There's a couple of things you can do with this. You can read it online, but if you are like me and you're constantly sort of moving around, picking up kids or reading on the train on the way to work or whatever it is you have to do to squeeze your reading in, you can also download individual chapters, and I suggest you do that and put it onto a tablet or your phone or whatever works for you, and read them offline if you need to find the time to do that. That works for me. Otherwise you can read it online, and that is the textbook. Now I've got in my hand the old edition of this one. It is a little bit different, but it's not significantly different. If you have this one, it will do. Having said that, when I read this book, I read passages in it and it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. The language in it I sometimes find quite difficult. So if you read the readings in this book and you think that meant nothing to me, I don't get it, that is fine, because we were talking about it within the class anyway. Particularly the first chapter I found where it's starting the research process. So this one here, there's a lot of jargon in it and a lot of really difficult, not chapter 1, this one, the major research paradigms, this one here. It's quite complex. So look, have a read. I guess what I'm trying to say is have a read. If it freaks you out, don't stress. It often needs a couple of reads to get it into your head, and sometimes that doesn't even work, but that's okay because we'll be talking it through anyway. And a lot of what's written in it is also in our coursework. So the stuff you really need to know is in here. But the textbook is good there as an extra thing to read. And you might read it and think, yeah, that makes perfect sense, and that would be terrific. But maybe it's just my brain, but I find it quite complex. So you can move yourself through to the end of 1.8 over the next 2 weeks. There's a couple of opportunities within that content for you to jump into a discussion list and write some of your thoughts about that. As always, the discussions sit over here, and you can see we've got lots and lots of chat going on in the introduction, which is fantastic. So for each week there is a couple of, or 3 in this case, for Module 1, because it runs over 2 weeks, opportunities for you to get in there and have a bit of a brainstorm about some of the ideas that we're looking at. I think that is all I need to tell you at this point. So, welcome to Week 1. First things to do is get into that discussion list and introduce yourself if you haven't done it already. Go and have a look at Module 1 and work your way sort of halfway through it. Do some of those discussion list activities. And what was the other thing? Oh yes, have a look at the textbook. So click on that link that was up before and just make sure you can get into it okay and have a bit of a read. But if you can't make sense of it, then that's okay. Come back to the coursework inside the website here, and I hope that will help. And then when we have our online class, we can talk about these concepts lots more during that time. So what I might do actually is summarise some of the really difficult stuff, some of the really conceptual and theoretical things, just to try and make it a little bit more practical. I think it's why I find it hard in that textbook, because it was so theoretical. I was thinking about how would that actually work in a real piece of research that you were doing in your library or that you were doing with some users or something like that. So maybe that's what I'll do, is to put together with our first online class, is to look at some of the concepts from that first module in a more practical sense. That might be a useful thing to do. So I think I'll leave you now, and you'll be seeing me at least once a week when I jump up and say, hi, this is what you should be doing. Of course, contact me over here whenever you need a hand. If you've got any questions, you've got any worries, if you are completely stressing, then of course just let me know. That's why I'm here. And that was the other thing I was going to say. Have a look at the assessments. So they are in the subject outline. As I said, there's only 2. Just have a read through them. They're not due until quite a long way into the teaching session, so you don't have to freak out about them at the moment, but just have a read just to get your head around them and just so you know what you're in for and what's coming up. And I reckon that'll do for this week. So I will see you next week. Welcome to the subject. Lovely to work with you all, and I'm really looking forward to making what can be quite a complex set of ideas a more practical and easy to understand focus. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.